What is up, you guys? My name is Swindles. This weekend, we have a full card headlined by Josh Emmett and Kevin Vallejos. I'm going to be breaking down every single fight on this card with my predictions. I've gone through so much tape in the past few days. I've watched 3 fights of every single fighter on this card. I'm going to give you guys key strengths. I'm going to give you guys weaknesses. And I'm also going to give you guys who I think wins each fight. Let's get straight into the video, guys. I'm super excited for this weekend, planning on making a lot of money. We'll start with the first fight here with Piera Rodriguez versus Sam Hughes. So Rodriguez is primarily a grappler. Her best weapon is her takedown game. Once she gets the fight to the mat, she's very strong in controlled positions. She's also very solid in the clinch. She has really good knees, very good elbows, and she's genuinely tough. She can take a shot from her opponent. On the other side, we have Sam Hughes. She is more of a pressure fighter. She throws combinations, and she definitely pushes the pace. But defensively, she is very hittable in my opinion. She leaves her head on the center line, and there is time that she prioritizes offense over defense. So her striking defense can be pretty suspect. Hughes usually grinds her opponents out, specifically with her grappling, and then she will use her pace and her striking to pretty much just weigh on the gas tank of her opponent. But in this matchup specifically, I would probably have to favor Piera Rodriguez when it comes to the grappling. I don't think Sam Hughes is going to be able to use that in this match, which is her primary weapon. So I do think Piera Rodriguez is going to have the advantage on the mat, and I do think that she can hold her own on the feet and land some pretty big shots, especially with the way the Sam Hughes striking defense is and the way that she just walks forward. So I'm going to go with Rodriguez here because I think that the grappling is pretty much going to equal itself out. If anyone is going to have the advantage, I'll say Pierre has the advantage in that, right? Next fight we got on the card, we have Elijah Smith versus Su Young Yu. When I first watched the tape on this fight, I thought Elijah Smith all the way, but the more that I watched him tape, I do realize that the fight could be a little closer than I think it is. Elijah Smith is a patient boxer, accurate, and he does have a wrestling background. He started with wrestling, then developed his striking. His dad was also in the UFC, so he's been around the fight game pretty much his whole entire life. He has a very nice jab, which he is going to need to use in this matchup, as well as really good footwork and good cardio. I know that there was one fight in the Contender Series that he had that he did supposedly gas out. I mean, he was still able to fight in that third round. That's what my eyes saw, at least. But I get what people say that he did gas out. Supposedly, he did take that fight on 2 weeks' notice. He said that he was partying literally like 2 weeks before he was out of the country on vacation. So we'll take that for what it is. He did look good in that 3-round fight that he just had in his UFC debut. He did look really good. He didn't gas out in that fight. So that is something that necessarily I was worried about at first, but I don't think we're going to have a problem with that here, and I'm going to tell you guys why. Su Young Yu is a strong grappler. His strength is going to be his takedowns, his control when he's on the ground. He does have pretty good activity when he's down there as far as the ground and pound. But on the feet, he could be a little low volume. I mean, when he fought AJ Cunningham, which AJ Cunningham is going to be one of the closest builds that you're going to get to an Elijah Smith. AJ Cunningham is 5'10" with a 71-inch reach, and Elijah Smith is 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. Su Young Yu is very low volume on the feet. All he really did was counter. He was having trouble finding the range because he was fighting someone who was taller than him and that had that reach advantage. Now, the issue was AJ Cunningham was not able to get the jab going. Elijah Smith is one of his best weapons, so I know he's going to be able to get that working throughout the fight. And I also feel like this matchup could somewhat cancel itself out on the ground. I do think Su Young Yu has the advantage down there, but I trust in Elijah Smith's get-up game to be able to get up if he is taken down. And as long as the fight is on the feet, I'm going to side with Elijah Smith here. And as long as the fight takes place on the feet, I'm highly confident in the pick. If he's not able to defend the takedowns, which I have a hard time seeing that, then Su Young Yu does have an obvious path to victory. But without that, I think Elijah Smith can have a dominant performance on the feet. So I'm going to go with Elijah Smith here in this matchup. On to the next fight, guys. Bia Mesquita versus Montes Rendon. There is 2 fights on this card. This one and the co-main event that I believe they are taking some very good prospects that they like, and they're putting them against people who are getting a little up there in age and that have a little bit of a suspect takedown defense. Now, Bia is a world-class Brazilian jiu-jitsu grappler. She's excellent at getting to dominant positions like mount. She has very good top control with very good ground and pound. Rendon, on the other hand, she's more of a pressure fighter. She does like to close the distance and work in the clinch. Her striking isn't very technical in my opinion, which Bia's isn't very technical either. They're both mediocre strikers on the feet. And I do not like Rendon's footwork as far as chasing her opponent. She chases them, she doesn't cut them off. And someone like Bia, she tends to work her way around the cage using her footwork until she's able to close that range and get the takedown. So I don't like the fact that Rendon is going to be chasing. Because if she is, I do think that Bia is going to have the opportunity to take her down, which if this fight hits the ground, Bia has a massive advantage. So I'm going to be predicting Bia to win this fight here by either submission or decision. I think she can even win by TKO. Her ground and pound is absolutely scary. She's a scary woman. So I think this is pretty much a lock. The odds suggest that as well. And I think Bia goes out there and gets the job done. Just to play devil's advocate, the only thing that I would worry about with Bia is that her striking is unproven. It is, I would say, mediocre. And Rendon also has mediocre striking, but I would say she possibly has the advantage there. So that's something to watch out for, but I'm not really worried. I think she goes out there and gets the job done. To move on to the next fight, we have Luana Lacerda fighting Hector Sosa, who is making his UFC debut after coming off of the Contender Series. I hate that the UFC does this 1-0 thing where they only count his bouts, like professional bouts, I guess, that he had either in the UFC or some organization. I know he's not 1-0 though. Lacerda is a pressure fighter. He has a pretty strong submission game. He has a lot of tools on the ground as far as submissions, and he is dangerous if he can get control on top. And Hector Sosa is actually a very similar fighter. They have similar fight styles. He also likes the pressure and work in the clinch. But in my opinion, I think he's just a slightly more aggressive than Luan in that right as far as getting the clinch and getting the fight down to the ground. I believe this is a very close fight because stylistically they match up very similarly. But I do think Sosa's aggression may win him rounds. So I'm going to slightly lean toward Hector Sosa. I feel like the experience is obviously also on Luan's side of things. And last week I did get caught up with looking at just the matchup. So I took Tobias and Luke Fernandez, and it just turned out that, the UFC debut, it seemed like it could have gotten to them, So we also have to take experience into consideration, and Luan definitely does have that. Is the odds close? The UFC doesn't even show the odds. The UFC's website sucks. On my next video, I will either do Tapology or ESPN. For the sake of, since we already started this video, we will continue to do the UFC website. I do like the layout and the pictures, but they have to fix some other stuff. But moving on to the next fight, we have Balaji Oki versus Manuel Sosa. I actually like Manuel Sosa. Now, I don't like his takedown defense, but on the feet, I think he could be a real serious problem in this division. As far as Balaji Oki, he's a very powerful striker, especially early in fights. But we've obviously seen that his gas tank can be a question mark. He can gas out when he has that first round, that he's very powerful and very quick, and he's using a lot of energy. He's very muscular, very stocky. And we have seen his cardio fade in his last fight. He was knocked out by Mason Jones. I believe that Sosa hits a lot harder and is a lot more proven on the feet. If you do go and you run the tape on Sosa, I believe he's even better there than Mason Jones. He's more of a threat and he's more powerful. So I believe that this can be a bad matchup for Balaji Oki. Now, just to play devil's advocate, obviously Sosa is a little unexperienced, but one thing that I did realize about him in his Contender Series bout is he has really good head movement on the feet. His main weakness is his takedown defense, and that's one of his only weaknesses. On the feet, really good boxing, very crisp, very accurate, great head movement, and I trust him to go out there and get the job done versus Balaji Oki. Even though it is his UFC debut, similar to last week, I knew that Alberto Montes was a serious prospect. He had his experience outside of the UFC. He's been fighting for a long time. He should have made his UFC debut a long time ago. And I believe Sosa is that same way. I believe they have big things for him. And I believe that if they wanted him to lose his first fight, or even if they wanted to test him, they would give him a grappler knowing that that's his weakness. But instead, they gave him somebody who's going to stand on the feet and bang with him, which makes me think they wanted him to win. So I'm going to go with Manuel Sosa in this case, okay? All right, guys. Let's move on. This next fight, I don't believe is as cut and dry as people are making it seem. We have Chris Curtis versus Miktabek Orabai. A lot of experience on the Chris Curtis side. Wow, 32 wins and 12 losses. Now, Chris Curtis is a pressure boxer. He throws very short and powerful shots. He usually increases the volume as the fight goes on. In some fights, he can start a little slow volume or low volume, but as the fight goes on, he tends to pick it up once he sees that he's getting to his opponent. Once he's landing clean, he finds his timing. Now, Orabai, on the other hand, he's extremely tough. I mean, if you remember his fight versus Rembetsky, it was one of the craziest fights I've ever seen. And I do think he likes that. He likes to go to war a little bit. He likes to get hit a little bit. And I mean, it's going to be very hard for him not to get hit with the way that his striking defense is. He throws a lot of blind kicks, a lot of blind shots, which basically means he'll throw his shot and he'll drop his hands. He'll throw his kicks and drop his hands. He'll leave his head there to be hit. And that's why Rembetsky was able to land that left hand over and over. Now, Miktabek, he has really good counters and kicks, but he's also very hittable. And he overthrows, and that's why he always gets hit with that counter left or even that straight jab. I mean, in general, he's getting hit a lot in these fights, except for obviously the Hermanson one. He didn't really have the opportunity to get hit. I think this is another competitive fight. Chris Curtis has experience on his side, but Miktabek has the pace and the durability, and I think that might overwhelm Curtis over time over the fight. And that is why I'm going to pick Miktabek, because I feel like he's just going to be more willing to trade in those circumstances. He's going to have more to give in those last 2 rounds. And he's the younger fighter in this case with the higher ceiling. But I'm going to warn you, just like I've warned you for some other fights, it's close. So I see that I think Miktabek is like a minus 230 to a minus 250. I would, kind of just like throw caution to the wind with that one. I wouldn't be so confident in that. All right. As far as this next fight, I'm not going to make it a long prediction. Brad Tavares versus Eric Anders, 2 people that's been in the UFC for a while. They have major experience. They're both coming off losses. They both haven't impressed me at this point of their career. So I do believe that this is going to be one of the more boring fights on the card, which honestly, I'm not going to really sweat it. We have some other really good fights on the card. I am going to lean the way of Brad Tavares. I feel like at this point in his career, he has a little more to give. I've been somewhat impressed with him in certain performances, like his Jung Young Park performance. Eric Anders is coming off a knockout loss. They're both on the older side, but I'm going to say Brad Tavares has a little more to give here as far as the volume, as far as the power shots he's going to land. And as far as the grappling, I know both of these people have great takedown defense. And as far as the grappling, if it is to go there, Eric Anders might be the one to bring it there. But outside of that, like I said, this is not a fight I would bet on. It's not a fight that I really want to watch. This might be a fight where, I take a little bit of a bathroom break. I get myself reset and ready for the main card. But yeah, I'm going to go with Brad Tavares here in this spot, guys. Now we are getting to the end of the prelims here. And we're about to get onto the main card. Charles Johnson just fought in January. He just got knocked out. He just lost. I think that it's absolutely outrageous that they would put him on this card. It was January 24th, I believe. It wasn't just like a regular knockout either. He was unconscious. He was trying to fight when the fight was done, which is a sign of being unconscious. And it was a bad knockout. So the fact that he has to do 2 weight cuts in less than 3 months is scary. The fact that he was just knocked out is scary, but they put him on this card, and overall, I do think he has a good matchup. Now, can I bet on him? No, and it's for the reason I just gave. Can't bet on someone that was just knocked out in January, not against someone like Bruno Silva, which he has proven. This is a good fighter we're talking about. This is not a scrub. Charles Johnson switches stances a lot. Those really good body kicks. He has knockout power for a flyweight division. I mean, we've seen him knock out Lorna Kavanaugh. We've seen him knock out Joshua Van. But sometimes he can rely on that big shot. Like most of those fights, I would say he was losing up until that point. Lorna Kavanaugh, he was losing up until that point. Joshua Van, he was losing up until that point, even though that was a little bit of a closer fight. So I do think that sometimes he is relying on that knockout shot, and if he's not, he could struggle. And I think he definitely struggles with shorter fighters. We've seen that in the fight that he just had. I want to show you guys. I was about to say, can it bring me to him so that I can show you guys like the fight I'm talking about? This fight right here versus Timarov, where he lost by unanimous decision. Timarov is what, like 5'5", 5'4", and he had issues. He had issues with the counter striking of him. He had issues with the lunging shots, which Bruno Silva does a little bit of both of those. And then we can't take away the fact that he was obviously just knocked out by Alex Perez, who put major pressure on him the whole entire first round, caught him clean multiple times. I do have to give Johnson credit for hanging in there as long as he did. It showed his toughness, but, Bruno Silva, on the other hand, he's light on his feet. He throws a lot of lunging shots, which they can be hard to time. Where he kind of like lunges in, throws his little 1-2, and then he pops out really quickly. But he also keeps his head on the center line, and he gets hit. And he struggled versus Joshua Van. That's why he ultimately got finished, is because his head is always on the center line. I do think Charles Johnson is going to be able to land clean here. And honestly, this fight feels very close to me. I'm going to lean Johnson to win because I do think he has the skill set to do it. I think he has the matchup advantage. I mean, he's 5'9" compared to his 5'4". He's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. I think all of that's going to work in his favor as long as he can keep the range and he doesn't allow Bruno Silva to close the distance. But betting-wise, this feels like a double pass spot just simply because of the things that Charles Johnson has been through in the last 2 months and the fact that he has to make 2 weight cuts back-to-back, which he doesn't seem like he walks around heavy, so it doesn't seem like he's going to have to, cut that much weight. But regardless, man, yeah. I won't be betting on him, but I'm going to lean Charles Johnson in the spot. But this, along with a lot of other fights on the card, it's close. We have some close fights on this card, guys. I don't want you guys thinking that it's not. All right. Moving on. This fight is a tricky fight. I believe this is a stylistic matchup. I do believe Steven Asplan is going to have that advantage on the feet, and I believe Vitor Petrino is going to have a major advantage on the ground. Vitor Petrino, when he came into the UFC, I thought he was a very good striker, and he still is a good striker. He's just a slow striker, and that's not going to do well versus Steven Asplan because Steven Asplan throws a lot of volume. He throws a lot of volume. He pressures you often. He's going to be a lot heavier than Vitor Petrino in the spot. So all those things scare me. But what scares me for Steven Asplan, if you go and watch his Denzel Freeman fight, is his takedown defense isn't the best. And he can get taken down very easily. And with him applying so much pressure, I do think he's going to be very easy for Vitor to take down. And if he takes him down, we've seen in the Denzel Freeman fight that Steven Asplan can be submitted. He can be ground and pounded. So it's a stylistic matchup, and it's a weird matchup for me, guys. Because do I think that Vitor is going to have success getting Steven Asplan down to the ground? Yes. Do I trust in Vitor Petrino's IQ to finish the fight fast if he gets down there? No. Do I trust Vitor Petrino to have a good gas tank if it gets to the second round? No. We've seen him gas out multiple times. So this makes me think that Vitor Petrino can go out there and end this fight early by ground and pound or submission if he's able to get the fight to the mat. But the longer the fight goes, the more that I think that it favors Steven Asplan. This is a hard pick. It is. Just because I've seen how easy it was for Denzel Freeman to take Steven Asplan down. And I think Denzel Freeman is that low level. I'm going to have to go with Vitor Petrino here because I do think that is a very clear path to victory. And I think the advantage that Vitor Petrino has on the ground is more than the advantage that Steven Asplan has on the feet, despite him having very fast striking volume. But guys, this is another one. Be careful with. I have my confident picks on the card, and I will end this video off with what those are. But Vitor Petrino is not one of them. And for his odds, I don't think that he's worth that. I do think that if he struggles getting the takedown, we do have to just, throw out there that Steven Asplan typically comes in about 30 to 40 pounds heavier than him. So, just be cautious with this one. I am going to lean Vitor Petrino, but it's a pretty close fight. All right. For the next fight, guys, we have Marwin Rahiki versus Harry Hardwick. Now, Harry Hardwick made his UFC debut on short notice versus Kyle Fernandez. And he was knocked out by leg kicks ultimately, which, it's very hard to take a leg kick from Kyle Fernandez. He probably has the best leg kicks in the featherweight division. But still props to Hardwick for taking that fight on short notice. And I did watch his regional tape. He looks a lot better there than he did in that first fight. So I do believe we're going to get him on a full camp, and he's going to look a lot better this time. As far as Marwin Rahiki, very, very talented striker. A very talented boxer, has really, really nice kicks. They're very powerful hands, always looking for the finish, very aggressive. But his striking defense, guys, it's so low level. I mean, you can tell that he's inexperienced. He leaves his head open so many times. I mean, that's why in his Contender Series bout, he was almost knocked out 3 times. He was dropped 3 times, despite him coming back and getting that knockout KO. How can we trust him on a UFC debut with only 6 fights in his career versus someone that has more than half of the fights that he has, someone that already has 1 fight in the UFC? He fought a fighter that is better than Rahiki, despite him losing and getting KO'd. Now, I do think Hardwick is a low-level fighter. I do think the main thing he brings is his clinch work, his grappling, and his pressure. As far as his striking, I think it's a little low level. I think it's a little slower. I don't think he has much power in the hands. So as far as fight-ending ability, I'm going to have to go over Rahiki. But once again, the odds show that Rahiki should go out there and dominate, and I don't necessarily agree with that. UFC jitters, the fact that his striking defense is bad, the fact that he was almost knocked out for the first time in his last fight, the fact that Hardwick's going to come in with a little bit of confidence on his shoulder that he already fought someone in the UFC. You know, Hardwick's going to come in watching Rahiki's last fight and knowing that he's hittable. So with all those things, you know, it's not a confident pick, Rahiki, at all. I have to lean his way because he's the more skillful fighter, and the more skillful fighter should win. But there's so many other things to take into account that he's not someone that I'm super confident in to lay the odds that he has. So as far as betting purposes, he's not someone I would be betting on. But I do like Rahiki to go ahead and win this fight, guys. Alrighty. Next fight, we have Andre Fili versus Jose Delgado. I really like Jose Miguel Delgado. I think he's a high level, and I do think he beat Nathaniel Wood in their last fight. I do think that was a robbery. I really don't know how that went his way. I do think that it was possibly a 30-27 for Jose Delgado. I just finished watching that fight. So, Fili, he's a veteran striker. He has really good kicks. He has a good jab. He has really good counter striking. He's been in the UFC for a little bit now. He has a lot of experience under his belt. As far as Delgado, he fights at a really high pace. He throws a lot of combination, mixes in a lot of kicks at every level. He puts constant pressure on his opponents. His striking is very high level. One of the best strikers in the featherweight division. If you don't know, I'm sure you will find out here. As far as the fight, I think the pressure and the volume might give Delgado the edge here. I don't even want to say might, it is. Andre Fili has shown that he's okay with being backed up. He's okay with being a counter striker. And against someone that throws so much volume, that pushes such a high pace, I think Andre Fili is going to struggle with the pressure of Jose Miguel Delgado, and I believe that his striking is a lot more high levels than Andre Fili. He's very accurate, and he can mix up on multiple levels. So I do think he could possibly find a finish here, and I believe that if I think he was robbed, he probably thinks he was robbed in his last fight as well, so that adds that extra motivation for him to go out here and get a finish over someone who's getting a little later in their career. So I do like him to go out there and get the job done, but it's a good matchup. The matchmakers have a bunch of good matchups nowadays. So yeah, I do like this fight, but Jose should get it done. He's one of those people who I would say that I'm confident in him being a minus 300 or a sizable favorite, because I am confident in him going out there and getting the job done. I feel like he has the advantage in most areas. All right, guys. Next fight that we have here is Omar Sy versus Ian Cutelaba. As far as Omar Sy, he has a strong jab, which is going to be the main thing he uses on the feet, is his leg kicks, his jab, and he has a pretty nice hook. But ultimately, he wants to get the fight down to the ground. He has really strong takedowns, very aggressive. If he gets his hands locked, he's going to be able to take you down. And now Cutelaba, on the other hand, he's explosive, dangerous fighter, but he can be a little wild. And in my opinion, later in fights, he does tend to fade. And if you take a look at, for example, his Johnny Walker fight, he was fighting someone who's 6'3", 6'4", just like Umar Sy, and Johnny Walker was able to take him and kind of throw him around and slam him around, ultimately submit him with the rear naked choke. And I think Umar Sy can kind of do the same things here. But ultimately, guys, I can't trust him. I watched Alonzo Menifil fight recently and also live. I've seen how he can struggle with someone who can hold their own on the feet, who can defend a few takedowns, and I know Ian Cutelaba can do all of that. So, I mean, Umar Sy is very early in his career. I believe Ian Cutelaba can go out there and beat Alonzo Menifil, and not to use MMA math because styles build matchups, but I feel like Ian Cutelaba can also be a slightly bad matchup for Umar Sy, especially if the fight goes longer. So I'm actually going to pick my first underdog of the night. It's going to be Ian Cutelaba. I'm not high on Umar Sy, and I mean, we will see. He can go out there and prove me wrong and just absolutely dominate. But like I said, we will see. He has to prove that for me first and beat someone of real substance like Ian Cutelaba, and then I can go ahead and rank him a little higher. Now, as far as this next fight, this is another fight that I really like a pick in this fight, and the pick is going to be Jillian Robertson. Now, as far as on the feet, I do think Jillian has improved. She has showed in her last few fights that she has improved. And I do think that the takedown threat is the reason for that. She's gotten so good at taking people down and so aggressive with ground and pounds and submissions that I think she's able to open up a little more on the feet because her opponents tend to be so worried about the takedown. And if we take a look at Amanda Lemos' last fight versus Tatiana Suarez, first I just want to mention Amanda Lemos, she's getting older. She's 38 years old at this point. When I watch her talk, she doesn't seem like she's really in the fight game anymore. When someone like Jillian Robertson is still very young in her career, despite her having a lot of fights, She has a lot of experience under her belt for her age. And if you look at the Tatiana Suarez versus Amanda Lemos fight, she struggled with the takedown. She was slammed multiple times. She was controlling the ground multiple times. And she really wasn't opening up until the third round because she was so worried about the takedown. So am I going to trust her here at 38 years old, knowing that she can be taken down and controlled, fighting someone who has a lot of momentum, who's learning to knock people out, who's getting better on the feet, who has a whole country behind her, So I really like Jillian Robinson in the spot. I feel like they gave her this matchup for a reason. Amanda Lemos is ranked 5th in the world. Jillian Robinson is 8th. With a win here, Jillian Robinson will be ranked top 5. I mean, I want Jillian Robinson to be in the top 5. I'm sure the USC wants that as well. So I'm going to be picking Jillian Robinson in the spot, and she is another one that I do like, and I'm confident in. I think she can go out there and get the job done for real. As far as the main event, guys, the moment we've all been waiting for, Josh Emmett versus Kevin Vallejos. I really like Kevin Vallejos, and I like Josh Emmett as well. I mean, who doesn't? What is there not to like about Josh Emmett? He's a pretty good guy, and he always comes to fight. As far as the fight, Josh Emmett, veteran, serious knockout power, obviously, throws very heavy hooks, very strong leg kicks, and he's incredibly tough. We know that from the Ilia Topuria fight. In his last fight, we know he did get caught with the armbar. He did get submitted. But in the Ilia Topuria fight, he took damage. Oh, my God. Ilia was hurting him multiple times, absolutely demolishing him. And he was able to stay strong and make it through moments that he shouldn't be able to make it through. And that scares me in this matchup for Kevin Vallejos, because obviously we've never seen Kevin Vallejos go 5 rounds. And this is not Giga Chikadze. I actually don't think he's going to be able to hit him with that one shot, even if it's a spinning elbow like he did with Giga and knock him out. I believe if he does knock Josh Emmett out, which is going to be very hard to do, it's going to have to be with multiple combinations over and over and over. And do we trust Kevin to go out there and put all that effort into finishing a fight and maybe not gas out, especially with the fact that we've seen him gas out in his Contender Series fight? Now, I do think he has a skill advantage, and I believe that he may have the ability to slow the pace down in this fight. And if he does, I think he wins. But if Josh Emmett puts the pressure on him for 4 or 5 rounds, I think he loses Kevin Vallejos. Now, the big factor here, obviously, it's a 5-round fight. Vallejos tends to build momentum as the fights goes on, and we've seen that. We've seen it in his Giga fight. We've seen it in his Danny Silva fight. And he is the younger fighter with a lot of power. So in this matchup, I do think that even if it does go 5 rounds, Kevin Vallejos does have the advantage here. If you take a look at the Giga fight, he was very patient. He threw very powerful shots in the first round, but he didn't overwork himself. He didn't out-throw himself. He was very patient. He's very disciplined with the amount of shots he throws. He's very similar to Ilia, where he picks his shots well, and when he does land, it's pretty powerful. So I am going to lean Kevin Vallejos here, and I'm going to lean him by decision as well. Don't think he's going to be able to finish Josh Emmett. And I do think that Kevin Vallejos has a clear path to victory with his wrestling if he chooses to use it, because he does have that. He does have wrestling in his back pocket, and we have seen Josh Emmett taken down and controlled before. So, I mean, we will see. But, guys, this is my breakdown. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, I do a lot of research, so you guys are always going to get very accurate information, very clear information, and I'm always going to tell you guys when something is a confident pick and when something might be a little sketchy and when you guys maybe need to do a little more research. So if you guys like content like this, please just feel free to drop a like on this video. Also, hit that subscribe button. Drop me a comment with what type of videos you guys want, and also your predictions for this fight card. And also follow me on any of my social medias. They're all MMA Swindles. You'll see them down below on the screen. Thank you guys. I love you all. Let's have a great weekend and make a lot of money.